Welcome to the Create Today podcast. I'm your host, Karen Stanley, certified rapid transformational therapist and hypnotherapist. And my passion is helping women heal from the past and learn how to create the life they love one day at a time. My beautiful guest today is Sarah Englade. She is a headhunter. What do you call it? It's not just headhunter. It's something way fancier.
I'm an executive headhunter.
Executive
headhunter.
Headhunter.
Yes. She's
She's amazing and brilliant, has her own business. And we were just talking about, right before we started, how we're both college dropouts.
Yeah, we are. No regrets.
Yeah, don't worry. I will be sharing a reel about that. So all our fellow college dropouts, how is it going running a business? Because we all turn into entrepreneurs.
We do, but I think aren't like the most successful entrepreneurs, they kind of all are college dropouts. A lot of them are.
Almost 100% of the ones that I know.
Because they weren't meant to go to college. They were meant to start a business.
100%.
Yeah.
It's just so it's interesting the more entrepreneurs that I meet, the more problems, the more similar we had in school. The sitting for hours, and I would venture to say everybody struggles with that. Mm-hmm. It's not really natural anyway, but the concentrating, the regurgitating, it just doesn't seem that interesting. It's hard for us to even care about it.
Yeah, I can't retain it. Like that was me in school. I could not retain information because I was not interested in it.
Oh my gosh. Well, and then you ended up learning that you had an actual learning disability too.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear all about that, but I want to start all over at Massachusetts. So my husband's from Boston too.
Oh, I did not know that.
In the projects.
Okay.
As a child.
Okay.
Like right by what's the big pond?
Oh, I don't know. Like the Boston Common Pond. I don't know. Is he from like
there
Jamaica
anymore.
Plain, Dorchester?
Whatever the big common pond, something pond is the park, the name of the park. It's probably like all destroyed by now. It's probably
it's
$18 million condos by now.
Yeah,
so it was a long time ago.
Yeah, likely.
But what was it like? Were you in the city or more in the...
So I grew up in Haverhill, Massachusetts. We were 35 minutes north of Boston. North of Boston.
Can we just talk in a Boston accent
we can.
the entire time?
We can do it. Honestly, it feels really comfortable for me to talk like this. I really like it. Yeah.
I love it so much.
I live in Texas now, but you can. You did earlier. I heard it.
Car. Say the Harvard thing again.
You park the car in Harvard Yard. Yeah. Very different from New Jersey. We don't say mall or dog. We don't talk like that.
It's not the coffee talk.
No, we don't talk like Jersey. We're Boston. Yeah. Boston. But yeah, no, it was very different. I grew up in Haverhill. It was on the border of New Hampshire. So like we did all of our shopping in New Hampshire because it was tax-free.
No way.
Big perk.
Dang it. I didn't know that.
Yep. So it was just different. It was a blue-collar city. Everyone there had a trade. Mm-hmm. And so my dad still works for the United States Postal Service. My mother is an admin at a high school still.
Wow.
Yeah, and everyone was really like an electrician, a plumber, a hairdresser. Like that's where I grew up.
Thank God for them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we're in desperate need for every one of those trades because less and less people are signing up and learning it. Yeah.
I know. And they should sign up for trades. You get paid a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can learn it in less than 4 years.
Yep.
You know, we're talking about college, and you can be an electrician in like a year.
Yep. Yes, you can.
My son's thinking about doing it.
Mm-hmm. Good. You get like an apprenticeship. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just go for it.
It's how we learned everything back in the day.
It's true.
So we were talking about, tell us a couple stories from school, because you were talking about just being college dropouts, but really the struggle started, you always struggled through school.
Always. So I think I mainly, middle school, I did not really struggle in middle school. I liked art, I liked, recess. I did really electives. Good in those things. And then, when I got into high school, I think it was a mix of like, you're trying to figure yourself out as a kid. Like I wanted to be cool and liked. And,
of course,
I felt very uncomfortable in my own skin. And so you're trying to fit in. And so I think there was a lot of me not wanting to be the smart kid, but there was also a lot of me, which is, crazy to say out loud, but that's how I felt when I was a teenager. And, then there was that part of me too that I could not concentrate to save my life. I really just could not. If I was not interested, I zoned out. I would be called out for it. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, what are we even talking about? Like, I could not retain anything. And my mom would say, oh, you just learn differently. You just learn. You got to get your index cards out. Write your things on your index cards. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. I can't even sleep. I'm doing these index cards and I still can't get it, Ma. It was tough. not going to lie.
So good with the Boston accent, though.
Yeah, it's authentic.
It's so good. It's so hard for, and millions of us are the same way. It's just like, why are we doing this? But okay, so, and your mom would write the teacher's letters?
Yeah, because I could not concentrate. I really struggled. And so she would write the teacher's letters and say, move Sarah closest to the board because she can't see it. And if she sees the board better, she'll learn better. And I'm like, I know I'm blind, but that's not going to help. Like, I'm
still
really
bored.
Yeah, like then none of this is interesting to me. Like, I really did not retain much.
No.
I had a really hard time. I definitely did. And my grades started to slip. And I was moved into different classes. And I don't know, I love my mom, but my mom never called me the smart one. She called me the funny, outgoing one.
Well, P.S. You can be both, Mom.
Yeah.
She knows that.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you have two other sisters, right?
I do.
So
yeah.
was one of them the smart one?
Two of them were.
Oh, gosh.
I know. I'm the middle. My older sister was like athletic and very smart. My younger sister is 5 years younger than me and like perfect, I think, still. But she was incredibly smart. She's a teacher now. Like, she just was really good in school.
Yeah.
I think she has her MBA. And so I was just I took a different path.
Yeah.
Just a little different.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a thing about being a middle child. You know that, right? Have you ever read any of the birth order stuff, a birth order book or anything like that?
No, I haven't.
know.
All I know is I feel left out sometimes.
Being in the middle? Because you're not the oldest or the youngest?
I got the hand-me-downs.
So your two sisters were smart and perfect in every way, and then there's you.
Yeah, and then there was me. Yeah, I was just the funny, outgoing one. But, I was smart, too, in my own ways. I just, I don't know. I was young for a really long time. I think growing up in Haverhill, too, I was able to be really innocent for a really long time. Like, I enjoyed my childhood. I rode bikes. I played Barbies until I was probably 13 or 14, which is, I guess, now really uncool. But my sister was 5 years younger than me. And if she wanted to play Barbies, I was in.
Yeah.
I loved that stuff. But yeah, like I think that there was a lot of me, too, not wanting to grow up. I think that might have played into me being the funny one. Yeah. Because I was just enjoying being a kid. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I heard someone say, give your child a cell phone when you want their childhood to end.
Yep.
You know what? That is so right on.
Or if you want them to, I guess, experience depression and anxiety.
I know.
Give them that phone.
Yeah, give them the earlier the better if you want to destroy their childhood.
Yeah.
And it's so great that we didn't have that.
We did not have
and
that.
It's so amazing. We're just so lucky. I know, and I feel like the old lady. Oh, back in my day, we didn't have
olden
phones.
days.
We had to pick it up, and it was attached to the wall. Like, oh my gosh, I sound like the old lady. But
I miss those phones. My grandma had one that used to do.
Yeah.
That was like the best phone to have.
Cool.
I was jealous we didn't have one of those.
Remember when you got the super long cord so you could go down the hall and like into the bathroom?
Yeah, that was cool too. So it was privacy.
It's the only time you ever got privacy. And then Dad, it's time to go. That's enough.
Like, hang up the phone, Dad.
Or over your sisters. Yeah. So I have a bunch of sisters.
Yeah.
My turn. I need the phone.
Yep. Like I miss those days.
I know. So why the heck Houston?
That is a great question. So living in Massachusetts before I moved to Houston, I worked in medical aesthetics. So I worked for a really big national brand called American Laser Centers. They do not exist anymore. So I'm actually a licensed medical esthetician.
I didn't know that.
I still have my license.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I went to school for that because I couldn't get community college down. So I said, I got to do something. So I went there. I was really interested in that. Ended up going to a year program, graduated with the license, and then started working for a company. And because I can talk and I'm a good storyteller, I never really was in the practice of doing facials or doing whatever. I was in sales. So they made me I was probably 20 years old, and I was running clinics in North Andover, Massachusetts, and I was selling huge packages to women for whatever it was, body treatments, laser hair removal, all the things. So I worked for that company for 6 years in total, and I got, I kind of think I was just over Massachusetts. I don't think I ever really fit in Massachusetts ever. I always felt like it was a burn inside of me to leave. And my whole family, they were born and they stay there. Like they don't leave. So the company was national. I put in for a transfer, and Houston and Dallas picked it up. So I came down to Houston and I toured Houston, and it was really affordable because back then you could get a house for like $100,000, and it was like a 3 or 4 bedroom home in a really nice place outside of Houston. It was very different from what I knew.
Wow. And what year was that?
I moved down in 2008.
Okay.
And I was like, this is insane. I was 23, so I needed to move somewhere that I could afford.
Yeah.
And that was Houston. And so that's how I got there originally. And it was probably the best decision I've ever really made for me in my career. Yeah.
And that's where you met your husband.
Yeah, I met my husband in good old Houston. He's from New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. But still a good Southern boy.
Yeah, he is. He really is. He's a
I'd
good
love
boy.
to meet him someday.
Yeah, you'd like him.
I'm sure I would.
Yeah, he's a little crazy.
Yeah. I'm from San Antonio. I think I told you that.
Yeah.
I'm not really from anywhere because of Air Force, but that's where we spent the most amount of time in my childhood.
That's awesome.
I've been to Houston a lot. It's very humid.
Yes, it is. I'm happy to be here to get out of the humidity.
Even though it's 109 today.
It doesn't feel like it to me.
It's dry.
Yeah, it's dry. It feels good to me.
Yeah, it's all relative. Yeah. Okay, so then you continue to work for the aesthetics place for how long?
So I was with the aesthetics place for 6.5 years in total, and a competitor of theirs had come in and they scheduled a consultation with me. And I didn't know it was, the owner of a competitor. So they scheduled it. They sat across from me. I had to sell them a package and a product. And by the end of it, he had said, hey, listen, I actually own, and this company is called Amerijuve. And he's like, I actually own Amerijuve. We're a competitor. And I was actually just scheduling here, to see how you did your consults, but to also recruit because we are putting up a lot more locations throughout Houston.
Sneaky bastard.
It was very sneaky. It made my heart pound. I remember feeling like I was like, I don't know, I felt lied to.
Yeah.
And like deceived. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, it kind of changed when he was like, you're really good at what you do. And we're putting up these new offices. And there's one in particular that I really think that you'd be good at. So I was kind of getting to the point with my old company that I really wanted a change. And so I interviewed with him and I was like, which office you giving me? And at that time it was an office in Katy, Texas. If you've heard of Katy. Katy's booming, okay? It didn't even have like a medical spa out there at the time. And I'm like, this is going to be a money maker. So I ended up taking the position and it was a great 9 months. I was with my company before for 6.5 years. I took this company thinking I was going to plant some roots there too, but it was 9 months in total. And it was great in the beginning until it wasn't, where the guy that would give us our paychecks would be like, listen, you better go to the bank right now to cash these, are going to bounce. This company was expanding so rapidly, but it was like they were a plane that didn't check their fuel engines before taking off. Like they didn't have enough. And so it got really scary. I was single. I had rent to pay and bills. And so I ended up, from that opportunity, giving my resume to my friend who just got into recruiting. I didn't even know what recruiting was. I didn't know what an executive headhunter was, but I knew I needed to look for a new job. And I gave her my resume and she's like, let's set up an interview. So that's how the whole ball got moving into that industry, was me just saying, I need a new job because I'm scared I'm going to lose mine. Yeah. Yeah. And it opened up a door into this lovely space of recruiting that I fell in love with.
Wow. When you were so young.
Yep.
And at what point did you decide I really want to get tested for what spawned that?
I was still working for the med spa and I kind of had this guilt of not being able to finish college. So I tried college when I was back home in Massachusetts and I just couldn't, it just did not, me and college didn't work out then. But I'm like, I really want to do this. My older sister graduated with her degree. She was like the first in our family to get her degree. And, I really wanted to get mine too. So I was like, okay, what can I use this medical aesthetic license with? Oh, I should get into nursing. So I decided, my first time trying college, I actually went in for business and I didn't love it. So then I was like, let's get into nursing. So I actually went back to school while I was working at the medical spa. And that's what started to trigger me to then go and get myself tested, because I started feeling like I was struggling again. I'm like, nothing is clicking. I am really, really struggling. I am struggling to pay attention, but I would get my test scores back after studying. And I would feel like, honestly, I hate saying this word, but I would feel kind of dumb. I'd be like, wow, I put all this work in and this is the best I've got.
Yeah.
And so that's actually what triggered me to seek out help. And so I ended up getting tested, and they found that I had ADD, adult ADD. So they gave me some Adderall, which me and Adderall had a short relationship of like 2 months because I didn't feel right on it. I did not feel right on that. But I studied very well on it. I'm not going to lie. My grades went up, but I didn't feel good.
Did you know that in colleges, almost everybody takes it?
I do know that. And I understand why. It keeps you up and it keeps you focused.
And keeps you skinny.
And it keeps you
Every
skinny.
single one of the girls that goes to college with my daughter, every single one of them was on it. Scary.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah. That was one of the reasons I wanted to go on it too. I remember that now. But I wasn't on it long enough to lose weight, I guess. It made my body not feel good. I felt very rusty. I felt exhausted on it, to be honest.
Something you want to take unless you really have to have it.
Yeah, I couldn't. I couldn't swing it. But during that time too, it wasn't just that I was diagnosed with adult ADD. That's actually when I found out about this auditory learning disability that I have. So it's basically dyslexia of the ear. And so it's not like somebody, made a joke, and it was more of like, I didn't appreciate the joke. When I mentioned this one time to a group of girls, the woman said, I don't understand what that is. So like, you have dyslexia of the ear. So like, when you hear yes, do you actually hear no? I'm like, you idiot. Like, no, actually, it's not what it is. And so the biggest thing that I can say is when, if somebody's talking exceptionally fast, sometimes I have to say, huh? Because it sounds very jumbled to me. Wow. I can't make out what it is. And then I am the worst at concerts. Like, you want to bring me to a concert? I love a good concert, but it stinks because I'll know the words. These are like the artists that I know, but if I'm in the arena, because of how loud it is, can't make out a single word.
Dang.
Yeah, I can't make out a single one. It's really tough. It really kind of like, it does suck, but I'll still go, but I can't follow around those lyrics, Don't know them.
Well, John and I almost got a divorce at the last concert we went to because we couldn't find our seats. People were yelling at us. People were sitting down. I'm like, we're in the 9th row at Elton John. You're telling me to sit down? I am not sitting down.
Yeah,
I finally just lost it. And I just turned around. I said, I am not sitting down, which is very unlike me. But why are we sitting?
It's Elton John.
It's the 9th row. I'm sorry. I want to
standing.
stand and dance. Since when do we sit? I'm sorry. Not on the 9th row. Go get a suite or whatever. Like, go far away if you want to go sit.
But if you're going to go to a concert for some of these people, especially like an Elton John, like, I grew up listening to him too. Like, there's a specific artist you're going to that you probably waited your whole life to see. Yeah. I'm not sitting there.
I can't.
There's no way.
I want to enjoy it. I want to dance. I want to sing along. What?
The last concert I went to was at the Houston rodeo, this past rodeo, and I had to go to this concert because it was 50 Cent.
Oh my gosh.
He now lives in Houston because he didn't want to be 25 Cent, so he left New York. But yeah, he performed, and the whole stadium was sold out, and I was definitely not sitting for that. And in fact, everyone in that place was standing. Nobody was sitting watching that guy.
Why would you sit? Why would you ever sit? I don't get it.
Nope.
Whatever. Anyway, I pissed off a lot of people. I'm like, really? Why? I just want to stand. Why should I sit? Because what's happening? I don't even know what's happening.
Don't make me dim my light.
There's a whole reason I'm here. I want to see Elton. I want to stand and sing along.
Yeah. I would have been standing too.
Oh, yeah. We would have pissed double the amount of people.
It would have been great.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, and it was a cluster of all kinds of places too, because of the venue and the security, and we were late. I mean, there was a lot of other factors that led up to that moment. I had it all the way up to here by the time somebody told me to sit down.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
I get that.
Anyway, that was fun. That was a fun night. I don't think we'll be going to any concerts anytime soon.
You just need a couple months break. Then
it's
head
fine.
back. Yeah. You'll be
Maybe
okay.
not,
You'll
or
be
it's fine. Okay, so you started recruiting, and you're working for a company, and what was that like?
Okay, so this is where my story, I feel like I always share this piece of it because a lot of people do not talk about the experience that I had, but the experience that I had, I think, was actually, and I know this for a fact, is very relatable. So I didn't have a great experience. I actually was with a company for 6.5 years. I did not know recruiting, but they gave me an opportunity to learn it, and they taught me everything. The company had a phenomenal training program, and they gave me a fantastic foundation. But the management style was really, really toxic and very, the only way that I can explain it is they managed with fear.
Yeah.
It was heavy metrics. So recruiting is sales. We have to hit high metrics numbers,
Right.
whether it's calling clients or sending emails or recruiting candidates, presenting, doing all of the things. And we're expected to do that. And it makes sense. You have to compound your activity in sales for you to get finally someone to answer a call and give you a shot, right?
100%.
They were adamant about these metrics, which was fine. That's all I knew at the time. I didn't have any other experience, so I could handle the metrics. But what I couldn't handle was the isolation. It was a very competitive, cutthroat environment. So it was almost like you weren't allowed to be friends with anybody. You wouldn't
all competitors.
all competitors. My particular manager, I think she just had like a little bit of an obsession with me now thinking back on it, because she really did go out of her way to just ruin a lot of things for me. So when it came to, like, for instance, like my wedding, my last dress fitting for my wedding, she, she made sure to keep texting my phone saying, how dare you leave for your dress fitting? You just left work on your desk. Then you didn't actually transition that work. There was no work I left on my desk. It was just her way of like ruining something that was good for me. And she did. I have so many examples of this. Like another one, when I got to my honeymoon in Venice, as soon as I got to the hotel and the Wi-Fi turned on, what do I have? A text message saying, hey, when you get back from your honeymoon, we need to talk.
Brother.
It was a lot of this. It was a lot of, hey, do you have a minute to walk off the floor and have a side conversation? It was always like, it was a very tricky place to work, because this is my manager. And I actually really respect my managers, and she was teaching me a whole lot, but she was so manipulative, and she would like say little things to me like, I just want to fix you. I just want to fix you. So
Thanks.
I'm a girl's girl. I've got 2 sisters. I grew up a competitive dancer. I've always been around the girls, right? I've got this woman who's like kind of seeming like she really cares about investing in me, but at the same time making my life honestly very miserable. And Karen, I like lost myself in that job, because not having the college degree, in recruiting, you make a lot of money, what you think is a lot of money. And I had golden handcuffs on, and I was not quitting this job, but I was having to hire coaches to get me to work, because I had like lost so much of my self-worth and my self-esteem.
Yeah.
I became that toxic environment. Like, it is true, like the majority of the people, what is that, the 5 people you surround yourself with the most, you end up being like, it's true, because I became that.
Yeah.
I became that. So
How did you meet your husband?
the honest story, well, there's 2 stories we talk about. So I met him at a Dave
There's only
Matthews.
2 approved ones. Everything else is not approved.
The truth is, I was dating his friend before him. So that's how I met my husband eventually. But the guy that I had been dating, it wasn't serious, but we dated for about 6 months, and then he moved out of the country for work. And then my husband and I were going to the same Dave Matthews Band concert, and he said, oh, and they used to call me Boston. He's like, oh, you're Boston. I'm like, yes, I am. And, the rest is history. We've been together, I think in total 12 years, married. I think this year will be 8. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
It's so
you.
great.
Yeah.
The 8 years. Wow. Well, we got married around the same time, because it was, for us, was February of 2016.
We were November 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Did you guys ever want to have kids?
Yeah, we did. And we're actually talking about that right now.
Really?
Yeah, right now I'm talking about it. Yeah.
Wow. That's exciting.
I know. So we are going to be starting our IVF journey.
Yeah. That's a doozy. I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard. So I wish that we were taught a lot more about like our fertility health.
Yeah.
when we were in high school.
Me too.
Honestly, I'm 39 years old. You know, career has become like such an important piece of me.
Yeah.
And so I still feel really young. I feel like I'm 27.
I know.
I feel like a kid.
I know.
So the kid thing was like, not really honestly that important up until it was. And so, so IVF,
Here we go.
Here we go. September.
Oh, I'm just going to say prayers and send good vibes.
Thank you. I'm excited about it.
It can also be fine.
Optimistic. I'm totally optimistic.
It can also be just fine.
Yeah, I'm totally okay.
Yeah,
I'm totally
'cause
optimistic.
You're so healthy.
Yep.
And you've been taking good care of your body.
Yep.
And your mindset is good.
Yeah, I feel good about it. And
Yeah.
I've surrounded myself with some ladies that have shared their own experiences. So I'm like, we're good. What's meant to be will be. Now we know
100%.
what was going on. So now we have, answers, and now we have, a path to take. So
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
Thanks.
And then, so you are trying to get married. You're being abused by this person.
I'm being abused.
Yeah, you're going to coaching to even handle this mess
I was.
of a job.
Yep.
But you're also learning tons and tons and tons. And I had a very similar situation in marketing. Just a yeller, really, maniacal, owner, just always yelling. It's like, why are you yelling so much?
Calm down. It's not that serious.
It's not that serious. It
Yeah.
really doesn't have to be that. But
Yeah.
I learned so much. I would never change any of it. Do you feel that way?
I got asked this question the other day, like, if you could go back, would you change anything? I'm like, no.
Can't change
I would go
any
through
of it.
everything that she put me through, all the things that she said to me. Without all of it, I wouldn't be here.
Nope.
There's no way.
There's no way.
So I would go through it again. And also, too, like I said, I credit that company because they taught me how to recruit. They taught me the business of it. They taught me all the things that it was going to take from, discipline to action, all of it. So there, at the end of the day, it was exactly how it was supposed to be for me.
Totally.
And I'm okay with it. But if you want to stay on this topic, I was fired from that job.
Yes, I do.
Sorry, I'm just like choking over here too.
What happened? Do you take a sip? Have some water.
No, maybe I should. Of
course.
It's a great story, and
Oh,
I talk
hell
about this
yeah, I
all
wanna
the
hear it.
time. Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard it, so I want to know. Was it that same woman who actually fired you?
No, she was on vacation. It was her boss.
Oh.
So towards the end of it, and so I am always very, very honest about this piece of it. I think it's really important to own, like, it's never one-sided, these situations.
No.
I don't think it is, especially now that I've been doing recruiting for 12 years. There are two sides to every story. And so as much as I was feeling isolated and manipulated, and I did not feel supported working for this company for 6.5 years, because I was a shell of who I am today and I had lost so much of me, I was toxic, I was insecure, I was, I definitely had walls up, I was not approachable, like I was not easy to work with. So they were trying to find reasons to get rid of me, and I had felt it, but I wasn't going nowhere because I didn't have a college degree and I'm getting paid lots of money. So I'm like, I'm gonna suck this up. Well, I got fired on a Tuesday after lunch.
Did they tell you in person?
They did. The Thursday before, I actually went to a happy hour, and I told a girl at happy hour I didn't want to be her friend because I didn't. It was a long story. We don't have to get into it, but we used to actually be really good friends, and I actually really loved this girl.
Aww.
And we had kind of gone through some things, and, it came to that. We couldn't be friends no more. But I didn't say this in front of anybody else. It was a conversation. It was an AB conversation on a Thursday at a happy hour. Tuesday after lunch, I get pulled in. It's my boss's boss and a witness, because I had to have a witness. And she said, you had this conversation. You told so-and-so you didn't want to be her friend. And based off of that, we're going to let you go today. And I'm really disappointed in you.
Whoa. And you're 27 or 25?
No,
Well,
I
how
had
old are
already
you
been
by
with
then?
this company now for a while, because I was
okay.
with that company for 6.5
Yeah,
years,
plus
my
6,
first
so
recruiting. So
you're
I think
in your
I was
early 30s.
Yeah, early 30s, and it's probably like 34, maybe 33 or 34. I don't know. And Karen, I didn't say anything except okay.
Yeah.
I was so relieved.
Yeah.
Like I was in shock, but I was
Yeah.
instantly relieved because they made a decision for me that I could not make for myself.
Totally.
I was so insecure. I did not have self-worth. I was putting myself through going and showing up there every single day to be freaking miserable.
Yeah.
It was impacting my friendships. It was impacting my relationship with, my husband.
Yeah.
It was impacting life. And so I coach on this a lot of the time because a lot of people get sucked in and they stay at a job out of fear.
Yep.
That out of fear they can't do better or that they don't deserve better.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they fired me, as icky as that feeling was, it was also beautiful. I remember walking out, I had 2 boxes, I had 6.5 years in there, and walking out, they let me go out the side door. I thought that was nice. And I go out and I'm walking to my car and I called my husband. I'm like, I just got fired. He's like, there's no way. I was a top producer. So I was a top producer with this company the entire time I was there. On a scorecard, I was like within the top 10 to 5 to 3 on a weekly basis. I was extremely good at my job.
I'm sure.
So he was like, there is no way they'd let you go. I'm like, oh, there is.
They already did.
They did. And we're going to be okay. I remember saying we're going to be okay. And we were. But it was definitely a shock. And at the same time, it was the best thing that they could have ever done for me.
Seriously.
It was. I would not change that either. Like,
No.
fire me over again and do it exactly the same way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just cut the cord, go, and then move on.
Yeah.
Then you can plan your next move.
Yeah.
And did you take some time off?
Nope. I did not. No, I'm a recruiter, so I leaned into my network. So my full-time job became finding a job. And so I leaned into my network. I lined up interview after interview after interview pretty quickly. And I had 6 job offers in 2 weeks.
Whoa.
And every single person asked, why are you no longer at such and such company? And I was like, because I was fired. They're like, you were fired. And the good thing with this for me was I didn't have time to digest what happened to me, so I couldn't come up with a fluff story. I had to say I was fired because that was the truth. That's what happened. So I went into each one of these interviews, and when they would ask me, I was like, I was fired. Like, oh, why were you fired? And I would say, well, because I told a girl at happy hour I didn't want to be her friend. And they were like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, there was 2 people in the room. That's what they told me. But a lot of these folks actually came from my company. The company that I left that fired me is one of the largest firms globally. So a lot of people know this firm. And some of them had actually left that company. And then some of them actually knew the person that fired me. So that made it even better because they were like, okay, yeah, you're good. I had 6 offers in 2 weeks. Wow. It was like fast.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I settled on a company that was based out of, they created a role for me because in sales, you have something called a non-compete.
Yep.
You've heard of they're trying to get rid of non-competes right now. It's the best thing that they can do for sales, okay?
Yes.
I had a non-compete. They fired me, but they wanted to make sure that I understood my obligation to the terms of the non-compete, which stated that I could not work in the city of Houston, Texas for a competitor for 12 months. So I could not make any money. So I knew that they would come after me because I was a top producer. So even though they fired me and took away my livelihood, they wanted to stick it to me. And so I actually ended up going to lunch maybe 2 weeks after I had gotten fired with 2 of the girls on my team. And we just got caught up. I never told anyone the company that I got hired at. Never released it, didn't update a LinkedIn post, nothing. The day after I went to lunch, I had an overnighted FedEx envelope sitting on my front porch from the legal department of this company, reminding me of my obligation to the non-compete and letting me know this was my one pass. And if I solicited again, which I didn't solicit, if I solicited again, that they were going to pursue me in court. And I literally, it couldn't get any worse, right? You're just like, okay, you already fired me, but now you're really just trying to make me miserable. For what?
Seriously.
For what?
They should be illegal.
They should be illegal. So the company I settled on actually created a role for me to get me out of Houston. So I had to commute. So I had to travel to Memphis, Tennessee 3 weeks out of every month for 6 months. Then when that was over, I traveled to Dallas for 6 weeks. For 3 weeks out of every single month for the remainder of my non-compete. And then what happened? My non-compete was over in April of 2020.
Oh my gosh.
Perfect timing.
Oh my gosh.
For a recruiter. Yeah. So by the time I could actually recruit in my own city and kind of move back home and be back in my home, the pandemic hit. Yeah. Just my luck.
Wow. Yeah. And it's been the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But sometimes nothing usually seems like the best thing ever until you just give it a little time.
That's right.
And I really think that's an important lesson to learn. Man, it seems like horrible. And it's like, you ever heard that story of the Chinese farmer?
Yes.
Good news, bad news?
Yes. Yes.
You just don't know.
You really just don't.
I don't know. Good news, bad news. Well, he broke his leg. Well, good news, bad news. Someone will say, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. You're like, maybe. Good news, bad news. I'm not sure yet. Like, for us to just take a step back and just say, actually, it could be amazing. So you can finally come back to Houston. You're back in your house. Then immediate lockdown. And then what happens?
Immediate lockdown. It was crazy. And so the company, of course, was like, we're not going to lay off anybody. We don't know what this is.
Yeah.
The company, I think, went through 2 rounds of layoffs, and I made them through. And then September of 2020 hit, and, I got asked, can you be on a call at 8 a.m.? And I knew what was going on, and they were like, I'm sorry, you're being laid off. The difference between this company and the company that had fired me was that the company that laid me off released me from my non-compete. So I had a non-compete with them in Memphis, in Dallas, and in Houston. But because it was COVID and it was a layoff, they were just so generous and kind that they released me from having to have any, obligation to it. And so I was free. I was free to find work. And so again, I'm a recruiter, so I leaned into my network and I had an interview that day with that same day, probably at like noon. So I got laid off at 8 a.m. By noon, I had my first interview, and it was with another like publicly traded global company, like $1 billion firm. And it was a great interview. It was a really, really good interview. And I went to a second interview, and it was also equally as awesome. But it planted this seed in me where I was like, or I guess the question, like, do I want to go back into agency? Because I was a top performer for the first one. The second one that I went to, I was killing it. And I had to be very entrepreneurial spirited because they were not metrics driven. They were very different from the firm that I left or got fired from. So that firm actually taught me that I was entrepreneurial spirited. It taught me things I didn't know about myself.
Like what?
That everything is figure outable, and you can actually go in without a plan but figure it out. And that if it doesn't work, guess what? You try something else, and then you see if that works. And that, there is no success without failure. And they allowed me to fail. And they didn't micromanage me, honestly. They actually were very different. And so I remember the second interview with this firm, and I just had this idea. I think God probably put it in my head. It's God. And I just went back to my husband and I said, listen, I think I'm going to start my own company. And he was like, why no? Like, he's scared, I think, that fear factor for him too. And of course, this company, I had told him what I was going to get paid. It was probably going to be the most lucrative role that I was going to get in agency. So he was very excited about this compensation. But I was like, do I really want to do this for someone else again?
Yeah.
I know how to do this job. So I just was like, I think I'm going to do it. And do you believe in me? And he's like, I do.
Yeah.
So that's how the whole thing started. It started with this idea that I don't want to go back into agency. I've learned this job. I'm really good at it, and I can create something really big. And so I went to my family and gave them the same, spiel and said, do you believe in me? Would you invest in me? And so my parents invested, my in-laws invested, my grandma invested.
Aww.
And I then Googled, how do you start a company? And the rest is history, to be honest.
Yeah, I did that. And I like talking about this to people and anyone who listens for the next, 10 years. You literally can just figure it all out.
Yes, you can.
You don't have to know anything.
Nope.
You have to have some kind of skill. You have to solve a problem. That's all you have to have. You have to have a problem that you solve. And everything else you can figure out.
That's right.
And I love that everything is figure outable.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything. You just Google it. And we had encyclopedias when I was a kid. I'm older than you.
We had them. I used to love them.
You can't look any jack shit up. I mean, it's great that we didn't have phones and, we had more freedom and we had a childhood, but we also couldn't look anything up.
No. And I get asked that a lot too. Like, people that are, scared to start their own companies that I'll talk to, like, how did you start yours? I'm like, Google. I Googled everything. And how
do you create an LLC? Then you have to file with the state, and then you have to figure out payroll, and then, I mean, everything.
Like I just made a list and I went down it, and you know what? I did the very best that I could. I decided to be a remote worker. So when I started my recruiting firm, I didn't really have any overhead. I had no rent. But what I did know is I needed CRMs, I needed certain softwares, I needed, certain things, but you don't need much. All you need is discipline and a plan and execution. Like you have to. So when I went into this, there was no plan B. This was the plan. It was plan A. Sarah's going to be successful. She's going to start this firm and she's going to change recruiting as a whole, as an industry. That was the plan. And so it took me, Karen, 6 months of every single day being consistently doing all the activities that I knew to work before. I got nothing for 6 months. I got a lot of no's, and it was during a pandemic. So people were not hiring, but I was trying to, plant seeds with people and grow a garden eventually. That was the hope and the dream. But it took me 6 months to get a paycheck.
Wow.
But I just kept at it. And somebody asked me recently, like, why didn't you quit? Why didn't you quit? And it's like, that was not the plan.
Not an option.
It was not in the cards for me. I knew I was going to succeed in this. And so I just kept at it. And 6 months later, I got my first client, who is to this day still my very best client.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. And there's so many lessons in there. I mean, just full of lessons. So, I mean, it takes time. Even if you don't make $1 for 6 months, you might not make $1 for 5 years.
That's absolutely.
That's normal.
It's very normal.
And it's fucking worth it.
Yep.
Because it just takes time, and it's no big deal. I mean, it feels like it's 900 years when it's 6 months. And at the same time, it's the only way to do it. It's still, you have to just be consistent.
Didn't they say, like, I don't remember where I heard this recently, but it was like the first 5 to 7 years that you start a company, you make nothing. Like, it is hustle. You work.
Yep.
It is hard.
Yep.
If you don't understand that, you should not be an entrepreneur. Like, nobody really chooses this path because it's that hard. What is, like, 1% of us make it or something like that?
Like 93% of all businesses, they go out of business.
They go out of business. And so for me, this is the long game. I'm like, and right now, like, I'm focused so heavily. So my market, so my job is really dependent upon the market. And we're in an election year. Election years really impact hiring.
Yeah.
Companies hold on to their money. They're very tight. They do not hire. And I'm in the accounting, finance, and HR space. So I'm very niche, and I only work in Houston. And so it has been dramatic, the difference in how slow our market is. But that has not at all changed my plan. So what I've done is, I'm still obviously doing the marketing that I'm doing, but I'm heavy into now building my brand. I'm like, okay, while it's slow, I'm focused wholly on just making sure that people remember me. Because when the market turns, I want them to remember Sarah Englade, the videos that I'm making, the content that I'm putting out, the things that I'm helping them with, whether it's free resume reformatting or optimizing LinkedIn. Like, it's really about just giving without expecting anything in return. And just continually giving and giving and giving, because it will pay off. It always does.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my listeners are business owners. And so let's just talk for a few minutes about what advice you give to businesses when they need to hire someone. And, like, what are the biggest mistakes that business owners make?
So the biggest mistake I think that they make is not understanding the market. They go in, especially for companies that haven't had to hire in a long time, they have this mindset of salaries and where they are, because they haven't had to hire in a decade. You have to know the market. You have to trust your recruiter. We have conversations every single day with job seekers. We know exactly what they're making and what it's going to take for them to leave. So if you are not serious about understanding the market, you really do get what you pay for. So if you're looking for the Mercedes on your team and you only have a budget for a Kia, that's what you're going to get. So that's a big thing. You have to know the market and you have to trust the advice that we're giving you. Because a lot of the time too, I'll have conversations. So in the accounting and finance space, we just really don't have a lot of those talented folks anymore. During the pandemic, 300,000 of them left the profession.
Whole industry.
Yeah, they just left. And now within 10 years, I think they said 70% of CPAs are going to be retired.
Wow.
So when I tell you like accounting and finance candidates make a lot of money right now, I'm not lying. Like they are our staff accountants. Those are basically like 2 to 3 years of experience. Those candidates make like 90 grand.
Wow.
I used to place them 12 years ago for $36,000.
Wow.
So you've got to know the market. You really do. And if you are wanting to hire, you have to have a really good process in place. Like you have to know the role, define the position, have a timeline and when you want to hire the person. And don't just go based off of like, does this person tick every single box? If you're only looking for someone that ticks every single box, they're likely not interested in your role because it's not going to challenge them.
Right.
They already know the position. If they're
Right.
looking for another opportunity, it's because maybe they want to be challenged. They want more responsibility. So to tick every single box, you're going to be waiting forever. You're not going to find that talent. So you really do have to be open-minded to that. And you have to be open to making sure that the process is really crisp and that the candidate experience, whether or not you go with that candidate that you're interviewing or not, you have to make sure they walk away with a good experience because the streets talk.
Everyone will know either way.
Reputation's everything.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
So you find that most business owners underestimate what will take to find a qualified candidate?
1,000%.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. They think that you can just find, so right now it's an employer market, but that really doesn't impact my space, accounting and finance, because we just don't really have the candidates. But it's an employer market right now. So for the last several years, candidates ruled the market. So they were in such high demand that they could get a lot of money. So you could give them 100% remote position and they were making in crazy salaries.
Wow.
Well, now most remote positions are gone. They don't exist.
Oh.
And so these candidates that want remote roles specifically, they can't get the salaries. So what that means for employers right now is like they're taking advantage of that and they're really lowballing because it's almost like they want to stick it to them. But that's just not how this works.
It's not a good long game.
It is not.
It might
No.
help you short term. It's never going to work long term.
You'll find someone, if you only have the Kia budget and somebody really needs a job because they're desperate for a job, they'll take the opportunity, but they're also going to leave because they're never going to stop job searching. So it's a Band-Aid for them. So it's kind of a bad investment for the company
Right.
to take the person on, but sometimes they just don't see it that way because they're just stubborn.
And then sometimes they can't afford to pay the person more.
They
I'm
can't
sure it
afford
has to be. Yeah.
That's another thing too, but then they have to really actually reevaluate the team to be able to figure out then who they have on the team that maybe they don't need so that they can be able to bring on the person that they do. Because really sometimes these, companies will keep on like, a little bit less expensive, like budget-friendly staff people, but what they really do need is somebody that is a higher caliber candidate. That's the one that they need, especially if they're having problems. Like when you're having like financial health issues with your companies, you don't want an accounting clerk working that. You want a controller to understand it. And so sometimes you have to get rid of those folks, unfortunately, to be able to bring on the person that actually can solve your problem.
Yes. So instead of looking at it, I only have $30,000 or $40,000 or whatever to hire somebody. You need to re-look at how you're looking at it. What is my problem and what do I need to do to solve it? And who do I need to hire to solve it?
100%. And that's where people like myself come in because we have these conversations with companies because sometimes they'll come to us and they'll think that they need to hire one specific skill set, but after talking to them, we realize, no, that's actually not what you need to hire. You actually need to hire this sort of a candidate. And it changes it for them, but then it makes it so much better. It's like, okay, like you were right. I'm like, I know. Like, bring in the right person and then, voila, like everything's better. So I think sometimes it just takes like trusting the recruiter. I understand too, a lot of people don't have the best relationships with recruiters. It's a sales industry. So my biggest advice for those folks too, looking to partner with a headhunter or a recruiter is to really invest in that relationship and give them a shot.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to see the value that recruiters bring to the table. We get paid the big bucks because we do the hard work that you don't have time to do.
Yes.
Posting roles, interviewing candidates, pre-screening the candidates, checking references, getting them set up for interviews. We do everything that you don't want to do. And nowadays, if you post a position, listen, the reason why most of us headhunters don't post our open roles is because when we do, 98% of the people that apply should not be applying. They just do not fit. It's a true hunt these days to find good talent. We are absolutely headhunting on almost every single role.
That's interesting. I also saw an article a couple of days ago that businesses are just leaving their Indeed ads running just to make it seem like they're growing, but they're not actually, and it's a false sense of safety or security or financial health, right? Is that true?
So I understand why companies do this to a certain extent, but they call them, I think, ghost posts. Ugh. I think that's like the term that they're calling those job ads that are just up that don't get taken down. So I think they're up for a couple of reasons. I think they're up because, like in recruiting, we'll post roles. Sometimes I don't do this, but we were taught this. This is actually a best practice in recruiting firms where they will post open roles, but they're not legitimate. And what they're doing is they post these positions looking for really strong talent to apply, because the market could shift any day. So they pipeline candidates and then they keep them warm. So it's a business, right? They always have to have candidates in their pipeline, but it is exceptionally misleading. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then I also sometimes think, Karen, honestly, sometimes these positions are up and companies just do not manage them correctly because they don't do talent acquisition right. They don't invest like in really true recruiters or HR around this. So these positions just stay up for no reason because no one's managing them, which is why, again, you should hire a headhunter because we manage those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bad look for companies. I understand why they do it to a certain extent, but it is not transparent.
Yeah, it doesn't seem, again, like a very good long-term strategy.
They've been doing it for a really long time.
They have?
Yeah.
Oh,
everyone complains about it. I think Canada, I don't know if this is true. I'm going to have to go back, but I did hear that I think it's Canada just trying to get rid of this. Like, you know, you need to be honest with your job postings. Like, you can't be posting up false job ads. So someone's cracking down on it because it's an actual issue.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, that's what we need. More government involvement.
I know. We both feel a certain way about that. And I could be wrong about Canada, but I did read something about it. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way. Okay, so I want to hear, first of all, the dancing. What kind of dancing did you do?
Oh, I did everything. I did tap ballet and jazz, and then I did hip hop. My mom put me into some like Irish step dancing once.
No way.
Yeah, I actually thought that was pretty fun. But yeah, that's
awesome.
That's sort of what I did. I was a really good dancer, but I actually have like kind of weird memories around it because they really exposed us to quite a few things, right? Like we danced in like the Miss New Hampshire pageants. We danced in, parades. We danced in, at one point, the studio that I was at actually had a boy band, like an up and coming boy band.
Fun.
And you could be like the backup dancers to them.
Well,
I was never
fun,
that.
Right? Oh.
It was fun to like be around that kind of a atmosphere, but I danced from the time I was 3 years old until I was 17.
Wow.
So, and I competed. And I was good, but I was always too tall.
Oh, come on.
They always made me stand in the back row because I was so tall and I was like a little thicker. So they would always get on my case and be like, make sure you do your lunges over the summer and, try to drop, weight. So
your whole life you've been trying to lose weight?
Literally, I've been on a diet since I've been 5.
Come on. Come on.
I'm sick of it.
People.
Yeah. No, it was one of those things. Like I love to dance, but honestly, that experience, and my mom knew what I was going through too. I was actually moved into a class for with girls that were kind of around like my same body type. And that was pretty offensive because I was really good. But it was, they wanted me to really work on losing weight.
That's insane.
I was just a kid, man.
You did not need to lose weight. I can guarantee you didn't.
I was just a kid.
It's just that your body frame is slightly different than whatever the other little kids.
Yeah. But I was really good at dancing and I really loved it. And I ended up giving it up because I think I got tired of being so hungry. I think that's the reason. Like I think back on it, I was starving. I was always hungry.
Please eat.
Yeah, like I was tired of just being like always told you're not skinny enough, you're not this,
already.
And I was just over it. And I remember we went to a national meet and we did really, really well. Like I went out on top. We got really good awards, like everything. I felt really good about it, and I was like, I think I'm done. I'm done. And my mom was really sad about it, but I was not. I got to eat donuts and like be a kid. Yeah, and not have to worry about, starving myself for summer.
I have so many strong opinions about that. That makes me so angry.
Trust me, I
telling
deal
little
with it to
girls
this day, yeah.
be on a diet for your entire life. We should. Oh my gosh, why does anybody think that that's
I was
okay?
like 10 years old
That's
and they were
insane.
telling me to like do lunges and squats. And, you know, this was out of dance. Like when you're home,
God.
please make sure you do your squats and your
Stop.
leg raises. And I'm like,
Because the 4 or 5 hours a day that you're working out isn't enough.
I know, because we danced all the time. We were
I know.
competitive dancers. We were there, I
know.
think, 4 days a week.
I'm sure you were.
And we were there for hours, like 3 hours,
I'm sure
4
you were.
hours.
That's
So
insane.
yeah, it was a crazy experience. It was a lot of fun until it wasn't.
Is that what you ate first? Was donuts after you quit?
Yeah, I love
How many?
donuts. I still love donuts.
How many do you eat?
I don't know, probably 2. I love a Boston cream, and then I love those French crullers from Dunkin' Donuts because I'm from Massachusetts. Like
There's a Dunkin' Donuts on every
corner,
Literally
yeah.
every corner.
So I used to go to the same one. I'm like, give me like this, you know, iced coffee
All
with
of 'em.
all the cream and a lot of sugar, and make sure that Boston cream and that French cruller and hook it up. It was great.
I could eat
Yeah.
like 10 of them when I
Me
was a
too.
kid. Absolutely, no problem.
I never had a problem with donuts.
I've never not loved a donut.
Never.
They don't love me anymore, but when I was little, I could eat whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
Those were
Yeah.
the good old times. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad you escaped, and I'm glad you ate. Good job. Good job for eating.
I feel great. I'm still eating donuts. I like them still. So.
Good job. Oh my gosh. Okay. Before we wrap up, what is a fun fact about you that most people don't know?
I don't know if it's a fun fact, but I think that so I am obsessed with 90s rap and R&B. So that is all I listen to, no joke.
No way.
I really don't listen to any other music. My husband hates my music. He's always like, "God, I hate this." But no, I am a 90s R&B rap fanatic. I
No.
love it. It actually is you know, Tupac Hit 'Em Up actually gets me really pumped up for work. I love it. DMX, everything, like, and Usher. Me and Usher, because, you know, R&B.
So good.
Me and him since the 7th grade.
So good.
Yeah, so I think that's a fun fact.
It's not looking good for him about how he treated Justin Bieber. I don't like Usher anymore, but
Listen, Usher has
yikes.
issues, and, you know, Diddy.
they all do. Yeah, they all have major issues.
Yeah, they all really do. It's a really sick world, honestly, and there's
Yeah,
all
it
that
is.
stuff coming out.
It's
and
not funny at all.
Did you read today? I think it was like Scooter Bronson. I think that's his name. He was Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber's manager, and he owned Taylor's entire book. Do you remember this like controversy?
Yes.
So he just announced that he was retiring, and he's like, "I'm retired. I'm finally at my place where I can." And all the comment section, you should read them. They're like, "Yeah, because you're the next Diddy."
He's
I-
going next.
I think we're gonna start seeing
good.
a lot
Lock
of
'em all
different
up.
things.
Fuck 'em.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. It was disgusting. But yeah, Usher, he was my boy, and you know what? So was Puff Daddy, but no more, no Diddy.
I know. Yeah,
Not
well,
fans.
listen to Usher for now, because soon you're not going to be able to.
You know what? I'm gonna have to look into. I didn't know that he was so bad to Justin Bieber. I thought it was Diddy.
Well, he was, but he was there, and he arranged the whole thing, and they were all in the same places, in the same circles, the whole time. I mean, come on.
He used to be my boo.
Usher is the reason why Justin Bieber made it. So
I
he's
know,
the one
and
who
I do
discovered
remember
him.
that. I do
Yeah,
remember
and
that.
he was just a little boy, and that's disgusting.
The whole thing is really, really gross, all of it, and everything that's coming out now.
Yeah.
And it is really sad, and it's kind of ruined music for me. You know, I used to love R.
too.
Kelly too. You know, I wish. Yeah. And I can't even listen to that anymore.
I can't.
Everything's changed, I know. And we live in a really sick world. We could talk about this forever. And I
We
think that's
could.
the scariest part of like me now wanting to be a mom and how different things are.
Yeah.
You know, like I used to ride my bike. I didn't have a cell phone. I could, you know, I was playing in the garden with my best friend looking for butterflies.
Same.
Like we were just really innocent. And now it's just a lot of just ick.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, that ick was there. It actually was going on that entire time.
I know, but we didn't know.
And we just didn't know it. So all you have to do is give them a phone when they turn 18. You're good.
I might have to have my kids have a phone earlier, but I think you have to put those parentals, and then I'm just going to make them watch the cartoons. I don't know what I'm going to do, to be honest with you.
You can worry about it later.
It's a scary thing to think about,
You
though.
get all of the most funnest, the most cherished moments of your life before you have to make any of those decisions.
Yeah.
Because those little years are just the best, and I just love them.
I'm looking forward to it.
I cherish every little teeny video I have of that, because I also didn't have a phone when they were little. And so I just had like this crazy camera, just one of the little actual, with the little films like this, DVD, or no, they were not even DVDs. They're just the little tapes, whatever they were called. And so I don't actually have all that many videos of my kids of like how they sounded and how they talked. And I have lots of stills. And then, so it was about when they were probably like 7 and 9 when I actually got a smartphone. So then I had a camera with me everywhere. And even then, it's just like, man, so that is the best thing about technology. Because now you will have every single memory, the way they talk, the way they sound, their first words, the babbles, like all of that. You'll have thousands and thousands. You'll have 100,000 hours of them.
I look forward to that.
That I didn't have.
I have my little sister has a almost 4-year-old, and he is, he looks like my little sister. So I prefaced in the beginning that my little sister to me is perfect. It always has been. And he's like a mini version of her. Aww. And I actually go back in my phone sometimes to watch videos of him when he was like a year old, crawling in the way, like his little fingers and his hands. I'm like, I love those memories of him. Yeah. I'm looking forward to all of it too.
So like with everything, there's always pros and cons. Yeah. And it's something else to manage when our parents didn't have to manage it. But they also couldn't get a hold of us. They had no idea where we were. And they also couldn't track us. And there's a lot of safety things that come with it.
I know.
I mean, there's just pros and cons. There's just pros and cons to everything.
Very true.
No matter what it is.
I was riding my bike everywhere. And I still think like, how the heck why did they let me do that?
How did any of us survive?
I was like riding across town. Like I was all over the place.
All over the place.
And then my mom, I knew that I had to be home at a certain time. Yeah. And she didn't even ask where I was.
No. It's like, hey.
So much trust.
Go do your chores.
So much trust, yeah.
Here's dinner, and where's your homework? And it just didn't matter.
It was a very different.
It was. Yeah. It was awesome. But it doesn't mean that our kids can't have an awesome childhood. Because mine, we talk about it a lot and how I wish I had waited even longer, because my kids were the last ones to get phones, but I still wish I would have even waited longer. And they're like, yeah, but we still were like climbing the trees. And Mom, I went by the park the other day that we used to play at, and they cut down our tree, the one that I used to climb up all the time. And so you can still do all of that. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what craziness is going on. The craziness has always been here. Yeah. We just didn't know it before.
We just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like it better. I like it
yeah.
better that I didn't know how horrible all of these R&B artists were.
It's just so bad. I just want want to go one day without hearing one bad thing.
I know.
Is it possible?
No, it's not. Yes, throw your phone in the ocean, and then you can go your entire rest of your life.
That's true. Maybe we can just start doing that.
I know. That'd be amazing.
I don't know. I had to drop my phone off at Apple for an hour and a half, and I almost died not having it. I know. So I'm part of the problem.
I am too. But I have kids to track. They're not even kids anymore. I still track their location.
Yeah, I would still be tracking their location.
Yeah. I want to make sure they're safe. Did they get in a wreck? Are they driving too fast? That's the cool part about it, is that you do get to have that, that safety, the safety measures and stuff. I always know where they are.
Yeah. I hope they know that. If they don't, they know now that you're tracking.
Oh, they know.
Them. Okay.
Bitch looks at my location more than I look at hers.
What to say? Like,
she
if you
told
didn't
me
know,
that
now
the
you
other
do.
day. She's almost 19. She's like, yeah, I saw you went to Buck and Ryder the other day. I was like, who'd you go with? I'm like, what? Yeah. I think you checked my location.
Okay,
yeah.
Fair.
So there's this whole thing about grown and flown, like all of us with empty nest. My kids still live with me, but they're adults now. And so it's like this whole weird season that we all have to, it's all weird and different. And we all, you have to mourn your children's, you mourn that your motherhood is over. And then you kind of have to adjust to, they're not actually little kids anymore, but they're adults, but they're not really. They still live here, but they're adults. It's a weird thing. It's a weird season. And it's going fine. Had a lot of therapy. I'm serious. RTT is the best. I actually go to my own RTT therapist, awesome. And it's amazing because it helps me so much. Anyway, what was my point? Is this whole thing about how kids, when they're teenagers, with the Life 360, with all of our apps that track everybody, how they will track us more than we track them. And they're like, hey, and you'll get a text, hey, Mom, can you get me a Frappuccino? Because they'll track us and they'll know that we're at Starbucks.
That's awesome.
Or they'll know we're at Safeway, or like, hey, can you get some more yogurt or whatever?
Yep, that's awesome.
Dude, who would have thought a teenager would track down their parents? Yeah. Would you ever track down your parents? I would never track down my parents.
Well, I used to follow my dad sometimes.
Oh, you did? So you'd be a stalker.
Yes, I'm still a stalker. I'm a polite stalker, though. I'm a recruiter. I stalk. That's part of my job. I have to know, but yeah.
You were born. Yeah, born stalking.
That's how I knew I'd be good at this. Like, it's that piece there. But yeah, I could never get in touch with my dad. I would see my dad's truck drive by in Haverhill, Massachusetts, and I would be like, where's he going? Sorry, Dad, I did do that. He'll watch this. But yeah, you were always somewhere you were supposed to be.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we'll go with that story. I don't believe it, Dad. Not for a second. But we don't have to get into it. Oh, this has been so much fun.
Was fun.
Thank you so much for
Thanks
doing
for
this and
having
coming
me.
in. This has been a blast.
Yeah,
Been planning this for a long time. Sarah, please let my listeners know how they can find you.
So you can find me on, Instagram's probably the best, Monarch Talent HTX. My personal account is Sarah's Filtered Life. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm really heavy on LinkedIn. So you can just look up Sarah Englade on LinkedIn and give me a follow.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here and listening today. Thank you for being here and listening to my show. If you got any value at all, it would mean the world if you shared it and left a review. Remember, the only way to create the life you love is to take it one day at a time. Create today. God bless you.